Good morning. Good morning, Radio Land. Also to our people on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and also LinkedIn. Thank you for listening in today. And I also like to thank our special weekly guest, Attorney Milton Grimes, who is regarded as one of the best trial lawyers in America. He represents Rodney King. Attorney Vanita Banks, she's going to be off today dealing with a family issue. We pray that she has her grief is relieved. And also, Attorney John Sweeney is teaching a seminar today with the voters. So, but today we have some outstanding guests. We're turning our attention towards the 2020 presidential campaign and the efforts to improve our voter participation. And so today we have some local heroes that's going to be on the line today. As you know, the state of Florida would be the epicenter of the 2020 presidential campaign. Back in 2000, I was part of the groups that came down to Florida to investigate the Bush-Gore election fiasco. There, we took evidence to show that demonstrated widespread voter suppression. The net result was this: is by 2004, they did settlements, they paid out fees to the lawyers, and Bush was still president. But from that, I learned an important lesson that the voter suppression effort actually altered the outcome of the election. But now, we could still won the election if we had focused on the smaller communities in Florida. And we got some important communities in Florida, and the citizens worked hard, and they're great people, but we didn't have the voter participation level. So here today, we're going to have some local leaders in South Florida that's going to be helping out with this progress. First, we're going to start off with Mayor T. Babcock. Mayor, how you doing today? Can you tell us a little bit?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure being here.
And also, we have Mayor Steve Wilson. Mayor Wilson, how you doing today?
Doing fine. Thank you, Councilman Lee. Thank you, and we welcome everybody to this broadcast. Thank you.
And Brother Church, how you doing today?
Doing well. Thank you. Thank you for having us.
And we have, is it Pastor? Okay, you can unmute yourself now. Okay.
Mayor Kyles.
Mayor, okay, he's still muted, but in any event, while he's, Mayor, how you doing? Can you unmute?
Yes, good morning, Mr. Lee, and how are you doing today, sir? Well,
Great.
Thank you for the invite, sir.
We got Reverend Robert Reese, okay, and some other folks. We're gathered here today, folks, and first, the voter suppression, we have Attorney Milton Grimes. Milton has some very strong feelings about this voter suppression before we get started. Attorney Grimes, this voter suppression issue is going to be successful?
Is the voter suppression going to be successful? I think with this issue dealing with mail-in ballots, having what does he call them now? His supporters at polling places. Some of them will be armed. I think there's a certain amount of intimidation that's going to be going on, Nathaniel. They're closing post offices so people can't get their mail-in votes in. In some areas, post offices only open 2 hours. It's not just one thing that's being done. It's a broad spectrum of things that are being done. And so I think it'll be, whether or not it'll be successful or not, I can't say. I speculate that it will have some effect, though, on voters. Yeah.
Okay. Now, Mayor Babb, tell us about the program we're going to start down in Belgrade, Pahok, and South Bay to counteract this voter suppression issue. I think I know it's a real deal because I investigated the 2000 and discovered how effective it was. So what do we got to do to combat this, and what are we going to do about it?
Okay, we got some exciting things we're going to do. First of all, we're going to seek the church's participation to provide free rides to the poll. We're going to ask each of the churches in our local communities to sponsor a day that they would be responsible for getting their members as well as the community at large to the polls. With the funding that you're helping to provide along with other donors, we'll be able to compensate those churches for the driver, for their fuel expense, and other things associated with that. In addition to that, we would have some individual drivers in the community that would provide free rides to the polls, similar to Uber drivers, and they would be compensated $5 per trip. Anyone in the community can sign up and volunteer for that role. It would give the community some buy-in. It also would help compensate them for their gas expense. In addition to that, we would have callers and dispatchers working the polls, calling our citizens, asking them whether or not they have a plan. And if their plan is to vote early, which we're certainly encouraging voting early and in person, we would then offer rides to the polls if they need the rides. And then that information would be dispatched to the driver, whether it's a church driver or the Uber driver or any of our volunteer drivers. In addition to that, we're going to have some boots on the ground. What I mean by that, we're going to have volunteers knocking on doors, asking our residents, do they have a plan? What are their plans for voting? We're going to push early voting as much as possible because most of us are aware that in the last primary in Florida, over 35,000 votes was not counted due to ballots arriving late or signatures not matching. We know mail-in ballots is basically safe and secure, but there's a problem there. That's another form of voting suppression that we want to try to counteract. In addition to that, another thing we'll be doing is working the polls every day in Palm Beach County. Our early voting is from October the 19th to November the 1st. That's 14 days. Every day, every single day, we're going to have some activity going on. And we're going to share what Belgrade is doing. They're going to be doing something similar, also South Bay. And then we have Pastor Albert Pope Church, Brother Church, that has a program in conjunction to what we're doing, Pose to the Soul, where we convoy, have the entire community, have all the churches line up in each of the 3 cities. And we convoy to that poll on one single day at one time. And it's a large, massive gathering of voters. Even today in Pahokee, we're having voter registration, making sure we get those last minute folks who haven't registered to be registered to vote so we can be able to make sure we're successful in this election. Our goal this year is at least 90% voters' participation in the minority community.
May I interrupt? Have they resolved the felon availability to vote in Florida?
Yes, that has been resolved. You know, we still have the stipulation where a felon has to pay whatever restitution and fines in place. And we have some organizations that are paying that nationally and locally. So that part, if we can get them in early and identify who need to have assistance in paying the fines, we have a means of assisting them in that. And Pastor Reese will speak a little on that later on.
Hey, Mayor Babb, can you introduce other guests and so that they can tell their participation in this important process? And also, thank you very much for your leadership, because here's why it's important, ladies and gentlemen, in Florida, Pahokee, Belgrade, and South Bay, and all across the country. The reason this is important, in 2000, the president's election in Florida was lost by a few votes. But the investigation that we did as part of civil rights showed in one super precinct alone in Broward County, Fort Lauderdale area, there was over 10,000 folks that were ready to vote, only 1,000 ballots. Mass voter suppression on election day. Meanwhile, in Martin County, which was north of West Palm Beach, they had 1,000 voters and 10,000 ballots. And what was shocking, folks, what was shocking during this investigation that we did as part of civil rights was that nobody at the polling site had the wherewithal to go to get up the ballots from the headquarters. It was just crazy. And it was almost like this was CIA type operation, mass voter suppression. So the antidote, the way to fix it is what you're doing. So Mayor Wilson, tell us about the progress that you're going to make in your city.
Well, thank you, Councilor Lee, again, to all of you who allowed this broadcast to take place. I always like to start and say there's no more of an important time for us to exercise our right to vote. Even back in the day, the civil rights movement, the importance of people losing their lives and their businesses and their family matters to make sure that we have this right to vote. It would be shameful that we wake up on November 4th and find that we could have done more and we didn't pull this off. It would be not only shameful, Councilor Lee, and to all you guys are watching this broadcast, it would be embarrassing because the fact is we have time to put the boots on the ground, as Mayor Babb indicated. But everybody seems to think, I don't want to get involved with politics. That's an ugly thing to do. Well, your will to exercise your right to vote is not politics. So what is politics? Politics is the process that determines who get how much. Not who get how much for themselves, but who get how much for the community in which they represent. Who get how much education, who get how much finance, who get how much health care, and who get how much justice. Now, you see all these demonstrations going around about justice. Well, guess what? Now is the time to exercise your will, your free will to vote so that you can get the justice. And if we don't do that, we'll be having these conversations in the next 30 years. Now, our plan is clear and simple. Putting boots on the ground, Councilor Lee. Putting boots on the ground. If you expect people to just automatically come out, guess what? That's not going to happen. We got to knock on those doors. We got to flush the people out. Yes, sometimes people have to be motivated. And you will ask yourself, well, who needs to be motivated in a time like this? Well, you'd be surprised. There's still people who need that little edge to get out there. So we're going to get out there. We're going to knock on doors. 2 weeks of early voting. We got to take advantage of those 2 weeks. Flushing people out, transportation to the polls, and making sure that people get to the polls. That's our strategy. Clear and crystal.
Okay, Mayor Cowles, what's your plan of action? And you're the mayor of South Bay?
Yes, sir. Good morning, Councilman Lee. In the city of South Bay, we're ditto exactly what Belgrade and Pahokee is doing. But one of the main things that we're doing in the city of South Bay is trying to get our young people involved as well. We had the golden opportunity to have some of our young people out with us this past week in reference to getting out the vote and along with our census. And they have did a fantastic job. And this is what we're going to continue to do with our young people to get them out. And also that I had the opportunity to meet with professional football players this week as well. They want to get involved in reference to things that we're doing in the Glaze area. They want to donate to the cause as well to make sure that we get our people out to vote in the Glaze area here. And I think that'd be a fantastic thing because also we're having vans to take those individuals who want to go to the polls or who haven't registered for the polls and make sure that they register and make sure when it's time to vote, they'll be able to vote. So these are the things that we're doing in the city of South Bay and also trying to get all our churches involved along with the members of those particular churches to make sure they get the word out to their family members to make sure they register to vote and come out and vote. And these are the things that we're doing in the city of South Bay, sir.
That's great. Mayor Babb, can you introduce the rest of the guests and tell us about what they're doing in this process, please, sir?
Okay, I believe on the line we have Pastor Dr. Robert Reese, who's going to be speaking to us just briefly on the felony assistance for allowing felons to pay their restitution. We also have Pastor Albert Church Polk on the line, who's initiating our Souls to the Polls effort, where we congregate to the polls for early voting. And in addition to that, we should have Tammy Jackson Moore, our community advocate, who's doing an excellent job in helping coordinate and working in this community to further this effort. And I believe we have, if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if Bishop Kenny Berry is online, and Pastor James White. So those are the individual I believe is here today, this morning with us. And we can really start at this point with Pastor Albert Polk.
Go ahead,
Well,
Pastor.
Thank you, sir, Mr. Lee. And yes, so what we're doing with the convoy to the polls is basically modern COVID-19 era souls to the polls. You know, we always did souls to the polls where we have the churches to come out, and we try to get every church involved that particular weekend and bring their people out after church to the polls for that last Sunday of the early voting. So what we're doing now, being that we can't do what like the regular gathering, which we're hoping in our next committee meeting that we'll be able to make a decision to at least do some form of gathering after the convoy. But what the convoy is we have from each city, like a parade of cars come from Pahokee, from South Bay, and from a location in Belglade, and then we all meet up at the early voting location, which we only have one in the Tri-City area. So we all meet up there. Everybody go vote there, early vote. We try to encourage all the church people who hadn't voted to vote, and at the same time, we try to raise awareness en route to the polls to people that are standing around, people that sit in their yard. They see us going to the polls, they can get excited and maybe join in with us and head out to the polls. So what we also try and do, we're going to talk about it in our meeting, which we have on Monday with the committee, is we're going to try to do some entertainment this time after we reach the polling site, see if we can do some entertainment and do some groceries for the people, do some lunch so that we can possibly draw other people out.
But Mayor Babb, you can talk to the other people. I'm a little bit curious. He just said something pretty profound. You have 3 cities in Palm Beach County with one early voting site and for 3 cities?
That's correct. You know, I was thinking about that just last night, and to myself, I say that's not sufficient. And hopefully next year we'll make sure that doesn't occur, that we have one in each of the 3 cities. Pahokee is 10 miles from Belglade, although we do a good effort in getting people out. And again, they're extended it for 14 days, so that helped, but that is a concern, Lee. Very much.
Who's the next guest, Mayor Babb?
The next guest would be Dr. Robert Reese, pastor of St. John's Church.
Well, hello, everyone. Thank you for this meeting that we're having today. I lost connection when you asked about the felons, but there are a couple of organizations that have come together. A number of the players, former players of NFL players, and even I think Mayor Bloomberg have set up some funding to help pay whatever fees these felons may have. And so what I'm encouraging all 3 cities to do is not only to get out there before the deadline for get out there to get people to actively vote to vote, but also get them registered to vote, especially those felons who now have that right. And if we do have any that have existing fees or standing fees that must be paid, there's an 800 number that they can call to get assistance from the athletes, and we'll find that number for Mayor Bloomberg so that we make sure that they get this opportunity to take advantage of the right to vote. I'm thankful to those organizations who stepped up to overcome what the Republican Senate and legislators did in adding that to the Amendment 4, because it was not a part of it, but it was part of their effort to hinder the voting rights of those who are felons. And like I said, those organizations have stepped up to help them pay those fines. And so there's no excuse for those who are ex-felons, except for those for the crimes that are excluded, that they can register to vote right now.
Okay, Attorney Grimes, what's your question, sir?
You asked me at the opening of the program whether or not I thought this was going to be an effective technique they were using, this voter suppression, and it kind of caught me off guard. So I would like an opportunity to say that out here in California, we having a serious concern about them removing mailboxes from the neighborhood, removing sorting machines in the post office. They're not paying overtime to postal workers. I think there was a case out there in Texas where the one post office in this black town started a 2-hour opening policy. It's only open for 2 hours a day, so you got to get there for that 2-hour period. This is a sophisticated, racist, nationwide attempt to disenfranchise minority voting. And it doesn't just take the one form. We're having complaints about the mail trucks being backed up. They're not paying the mail employees overtime to handle the backup. So there's a great suspicion there's going to be a lot of people whose votes won't be counted because of this problem we're having in the mail system. You spoke of the felons, the organizations that's paying the fines for the felons. I can just foresee that, now the felons have a right to vote. They got to pay these fines, but I know that red tape don't always follow that right to vote. So it could be months before the payment of a bill, as some of you've experienced, is recognized for what you want to use it for. So I don't know what's in play for that, but I can say that this thing, now, and listening to you, my stomach churns a little bit because I'm saying, what can we do to stop this thing from happening again? The disenfranchisement of the African American vote in particular. I remember voting the last time in my neighborhood, the last vote, 2 or 3 months ago. I forgot what it was. It was a small vote. And the woman, we were in line, and the lady, a block from me in my neighborhood, says, okay, everybody that's not inside at 8 o'clock, that's it. You got to go home. And I was in that part of the line. I said, hold up, ma'am. I'm here to vote, and I need to cast my vote. And we ain't going home. So other people thought, but some people were walking away because they knew they couldn't get in. And I'm saying, no, I'm not trying to start no fight here, but I've got to vote. And I'm not we're staying apart. We're coronavirus in line. But we are here at this polling place. I've been here a half hour. This line was down the block. And you're telling us if we don't get in that door by 8 o'clock, we can't not vote? That's bullshit. Oh, seriously. And she was a white lady. And this is a black neighborhood. And so she said, well, sir. And then one of the sisters said something, spoke up, said, no, we're not leaving. And then somebody came out and took her to the side and said, okay, everybody that's in line now can come in and vote. I said, no, that ain't right either, because it ain't 8 o'clock yet. And somebody come in and get in the next in this line, they supposed to be able to go in. I'm not bragging on myself. I'm just saying if I hadn't have been there late, people wouldn't have been able to vote, and they were there. So this thing is deeper than we realize.
Hey, Mayor Bass, Attorney Grime Raider made a really good point, and there's some additional assistance that I can probably work out. When the mayor was talking about the felons and things like that, do we have some lawyers, volunteers in place now to assist the felons to vote? And as far as this process, and I really appreciate your effort. There's a great program you came up with, great success, and I know you're a great leader, and I know you, man of your word, is going to get done. So I know it's done. But the problem we have is that what the other mayor raised about the felons, lawyers in place that are volunteers to make sure they get past this red tape to make sure they're eligible to vote.
Not that I'm aware of, but I was a member of the Florida Board of Attorneys for about 15 years, and I can speak with the director there and make sure that we get some type of assistance from the Lawyers Association as far as assisting in this area. It was a Legal Aid Society I was a board member for, so we don't have anything in place that I'm aware of. I don't know, Pastor Reese, are you aware that there are any lawyer organization at this time assisting in that area? So if not, we'll make sure that happens.
I think there's a Black Lawyers Association in West Palm Beach.
Okay.
That would definitely step up if we can identify the need. And because I know they have come over several times since the felony bill passed, and tried to get them to register. So I'm pretty sure it would be excellent to contact them and see if they can assist us in some way. But I think the most important thing is they register. Go ahead and they can still register to vote. They don't have to wait to register. They can register to vote now. And then, as I said before, and then what that organization can then go ahead and take care of the fee. They're not hindered from registering unless the two offenses that was excluded from that. I think capital murder and the sex crime, they were exempt from that. So they can still register to vote, and then they can contact those agencies. But I know that I believe that the lawyers, that association, would definitely come over and work with us on anything we need to do.
Hey, thank you. So, Attorney Lee, we will.
I'll resolve that problem for you. I'll get you some volunteer lawyers by Wednesday. So I have people call you, and I thought about this in advance because I had volunteered to come down to Florida as part of that 2000 election problem. So I have some contacts, and I'll have some people call you by Wednesday this week, and I'll get some lawyer volunteers to work on this project for you down in South Florida, okay?
Okay, great.
Now go ahead and introduce the next guest. I'll work on that right away.
Next, we have Tammy Jackson Moore. She's the CEO of Glades, Guardians of the Glades. She's also a board member with Palm Beach County Health District. She's a go-to person, especially when we're having activities in the Glades and having coordinations of things between the three Tri-Cities. This is our go-to person. Tammy, you're on.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor Bass. As it relates to making certain we get people to the polls, I work very, very closely with the mayors to ensure that people are aware of what is on the actual ballot itself, as well as educate them. We have a big issue with voter education, so we're trying to educate the voters and engage them. We work very, very closely to make certain that we have ample amounts of people at the voting poll to assist voters that have never voted before. We are working closely with organizations that are paying fines. As a matter of fact, I got a phone call this morning from the Florida Restoration Rights Coalition. They will be in the Glades today between 1 and 2 o'clock. They're going to be here for about an hour and a half talking to people that need assistance with paying their fines so that they can actually vote. They're going to have people here from their organization up on the loading ramp in Belglade meeting with people. So we're excited about that. Today is the last day for those individuals to apply for that type of support and funding to pay off their fines. So that's why they're making their last ditch effort to make certain that people who need their fines paid off have an opportunity to get those fines paid off. So we're working closely with that. We are boots on the ground, especially those 2 weeks of early voting, making certain that people are actually out there working and moving people to the voter poll. And then when we get to election day itself, it's all hands on. We are there about 12 hours the entire day of the voting, from the setup to the actual completion and closure of the polls. And then we're there as the votes are being counted. So we work to bring people together for a myriad of reasons and causes in our Glades. But right now, we're really, really focused on the election, and then making certain, as I said, that our voters are engaged and they're educated about the ballot, and need to make certain that you not only vote for one individual, we need to vote all the way down the ballot so we can make certain that we have support for those individuals who are in those decision-making seats. They need to have support from others that are going to be elected officials so that they can get some of the things done that they need to get done.
Well, thank you very much. And Mayor Babb, now who's our next guest? And go ahead and introduce them next.
This point, I don't know if we have any additional guests online. If so, could you identify yourself? I'm not sure. I believe that's the conclusion of our guests from the Glades.
Okay, well, here's where we are. What we'll do going forward, I'm going to help out because I understand how important this effort is. And let me explain the totality of my thought process. In 2000, in the presidential election, I did not have access to the data and analytics in terms of voter participation, but I did investigate and determine how the mass voter suppression occurred, right? And in 2016, I had access to the data that showed voter participation level. As part of the Democratic Party and the Republican have the same data, they already know in each election who vote, and in the primary who vote in the general election, right? They keep detailed information. So we know going in that about 70% of the folks who vote, like Democrats, going to vote no matter what. Even if we had a Democrat that was a bad Democrat, they would still vote. Then, so the process is just 30%, right? So you have to increase voter participation. Now, one of the things that was alarming, though, is that we have a lot of African-American males, for example, who think that they have a single type issue, like they'll get pegged on issues such as abortion, right? And so because one candidate says that I'm against abortion, they said I need to vote for that candidate. But here's the problem. Folks, we have over 200 federal judges, and one of the briefs that we're trying to get filed by tomorrow is Day versus Wooten et al. It dealt with the qualified immunity defense. These new judges, in some situations, have committed legal jujitsu. They've changed the civil rights laws to basically say that they don't really exist for Black America. It's just incredible, some of these decisions that are coming down that the average citizens are not paying attention to. And so this fight over the court system is a real deal. Our rights going to be reduced for the next generation because of these judges that have been appointed. And you don't think that this thing will affect you, I can guarantee you at some point in your life it will. Because I see it now, and it's just alarming to me. And so we're fighting for our soul. We're fighting for the safety of our young men and women. And so there's a lot going on. Also, Mayor, the other thing that I forgot to talk about, the census. Did we also get everybody in our cities, and I want to talk about that also, did everybody also get signed up for the census?
Yes, and we've been tracking the progress as far as the percentage of residents who have completed their census. All three cities have done an outstanding job in assisting and helping residents to know the importance of completing their census. That's been something that we have been doing on an ongoing basis. And I don't know, Tam, at this point, do you remember now what's the percentage of completion in each of the cities are?
The numbers will be released sometime this evening, but we anticipate that all three cities have completed more than 50% of the actual census participation. There's been a great effort that has occurred within the last 2 weeks to make certain that we are out there every single day with the team doing and conducting census education and getting people to participate in that. So we've done an extensive amount of work. I know within the last 2 weeks, more than 200 to 300 people have participated in the census survey.
And Mayor Joe Cowles, I know you've been working really hard in the city of South Bay on making sure that your community is counted. Do you have any updates or anything on the efforts that you all been doing as far as the census?
Yes, Mayor. This week here, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we was out in the city of South Bay, along with our intern workers within the city of South Bay. We were going door to door. We started from the east side all the way to the western side, the north and the south there. Each and every one of those residents, we were walking into the community to make sure that each and every one of those that haven't signed up for their census, we made sure that they called in and make sure they sign up for the census. We went through all our Latin residents, along with the Spanish residents and the others that live in the city of South Bay. So we're very successful this past week in reference to reaching all those individuals. So I think we'd be very good within the city of South Bay once we get the numbers, sir.
And Mayor Steve Wilson from Belgrade, I know you are number one advocate of making sure that everyone is counted. Any updates from the city of Belgrade?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. As Tammy indicated, in the last couple of weeks, we've been having different organizations be a part of the participation with the census drive, and we're hopeful as well as prayerful that our numbers are going to increase. But I want to go back, Mayor Bowles, to the point that Councilor Lee made, voters' participation. And I'll be the elephant in the room. And I understand the importance of getting the ex-felons their rights to vote, and we should be pushing that. I mean, pushing it hardy. But I also think our strategy should be pushing those folks that are registered to vote. Now, for years, we have people that's on the book to vote, but they're not voting. Why is that? We got to figure this out, y'all, because, again, after November 3rd, we'll be having these conversations again. Hopefully, we're going to pull it off, and I'm praying for that it's going to happen. But the worst case, we're going to be asking ourselves what we could have done better. And we shouldn't be at that point. We have enough people now registered to vote. Right now, we have enough to pull this off. And so, Councilor Lee, you made some key points. But what's our strategy to get these people excited to go to the polls? Yes, there's some issues about individual, about abortion and all, but there may be some other issues. But we got to find a strategy within these next 2 weeks, how we get these people excited. Those that are registered already, how do we get them excited? I know in Belgrade alone, we have over 7,000 registered people to vote. Unfortunately, we may only get 2,000 in the last election, 2,000 at the most. What do? We got to find a strategy, y'all, to get people excited to go to the polls, to exercise their will to vote.
Well, Mr. Wilson, what do you suggest? I'm sorry, I don't mean to cut you off. After watching that debate the other day, I don't want to ever interrupt another speaker. I apologize. Okay. But I'm sorry, Brother Wilson, but what do you suggest short of going to the house and grabbing them by the throat and taking them down there on the 3rd?
Yeah.
I mean, what more do they need right now to get excited about the need to vote?
And that's the $1,000 question. How do we change our strategy to get people excited? You own it. How do we change our strategy? Because what we've done in the past, I'm not saying it's not working, but we seem to be pushing, getting everybody excited to be registered, but we got to push them to vote.
Yeah.
Hey, Mayor, here's one thing that I think is important. I don't know what's going on in your cities in terms of COVID-19. I've had relatives to die. The best man in my wedding, Judge Horace Johnson, died because of COVID. He was diagnosed on a Tuesday. He got a test on Tuesday, had no symptoms on a Friday. He tested positive. The next Wednesday, he fell dead. Gee, I've had all these friends and stuff that are not dying. In Indianapolis, Indiana, the Marion County Coroner's Office got 4 refrigerated trucks outside of the coroner's office with dead bodies. The way they're doing these dead bodies now in our cities, they spray them down with a chemical to get rid of the antibiotic. They put a bag on them, and then they put a second bag on the dead bodies, which is just shocking to me. So we have a situation in our country, in the history of America, we've never had a pandemic handled so poorly. What the government has done, the president himself, is complicit in the killing of over 210,000 Americans, because the way we did this, let me give you some examples. The president took claim for reducing the number of people coming from overseas when the pandemic started. What they didn't do was something very basic. All these Americans rushed back to get in the country. We had no protocol for testing. So we brought the disease into our country in a wholesale fashion by simply not knowing how to handle a pandemic. So there was a list of about 20 things that were done wrong. All these things contribute to this massive killing of America. And guess what? It affects our community more than anybody else. Our unemployment rate's back up. And I see so many people now, Mayor, that are just struggling financially. If you're rich, you're probably richer now. But if you're poor, you're really poor. And so I see that in my profession. Fortunately, what I do is that we sue everybody. So it's a good thing right now. But for the most Americans, they're struggling every day just to pay their bills. And that's why we have to have a program like this, because I understand that most people can't afford to pay $10 to go vote, to drive 10 miles. They're trying to put food on the table. They're trying to pay an electric bill. I understand that. And so if people are not motivated, I tell you what, here's what you need to do. You look outside and look at your neighbors, see how many are sick or dying from this disease process.
And Mayor Wilson, one of the things we're going to be doing to help motivate them is the term you like to use, have them have some skin in the game. We're going to be soliciting and recruiting individual drivers, although they're not being paid per se, but they are being compensated for their fuel expense, $5 per trip. So individuals who want to participate and want to have a part in this, they could actually become drivers and recruit their family, their friends, and everybody in the community that need a ride to the poll. We're going to find some means and some way to be able to compensate them. $5 a trip could add up over a total of 14 days. So hopefully that would help generate some excitement. But you're right, it's every election where you have to continue to encourage people to vote and to participate. And another encouragement and motivation is we cannot stand 4 more years of the current situation in our country. People got to be excited about that. And I think all over people's are, but we just got to fuel that flame and make sure it continue to flame until election day.
Absolutely.
Mayor Valls, one of the things that I want to try to do in the city of South Bay, and hopefully that we can do it in this entire Glaze area. I'll be here with my vice mayor in the city of South Bay, and every other day we'll be riding in our community with our loudspeaker, letting the people know how important it is to go out and vote. I think that we continue to do that right up to the time for early election and also going up to the vote, going in November. So therefore, the people cannot come and say that no one has spoken to them about that. And we will continue to motivate that each and every other day within the city of South Bay to make sure that people hear our voice about how important it is to go to the polls.
And our vice mayor and myself would also be doing something similar. We're actually going to be providing free rides to the poll ourselves every day of the 14 days of early voting. So I think with a collective effort that we're doing, hopefully we can get everybody. Remember, the goal is 90%. That's an ambitious goal, but it's one that if we all work toward, we can do it. That would be real exciting to have 90% of every registered voter, especially the minority voters, to go out to the poll and vote on election day or before.
But that seems like a challenge then, 3 cities in a fun way, to see who can get the most people to the polls. Let's do that. That's another strategy to get people excited.
Yeah.
Let's do it that way.
Brother Lee, I recognize it's difficult for these brothers here in Florida because they still the vacation state, the retirement state, no police brutality state like the rest of us who have to suffer. So we all are going to be staying awake the next 30 days while these Floridonians rest and vacation. You see what I'm saying? So they need to still get awake.
One of the things, too, that's very important, I've been working on this Biden campaign, and one of the things that most people don't realize is that we don't have revenue sharing out in the glades. For example, do we have federal dollars or federal facilities? See, one of the things that we have to deal with is high unemployment, right? And so the way we address that, if we don't have private industry, we then need the government to kick in more money. We saw that the government stick in as part of the stimulus, and now we have a federal deficit, of course, that's going to be $3 trillion, but that didn't matter. So billionaires are getting richer. Meanwhile, communities of color that don't have a lot of rich people, we're suffering more, right? I identify with Cahoga, that's where I grew up at, and I understand the fact that we have a high unemployment. Well, this election, we have a unique opportunity to try to look at federal dollars in a different vein. I was on a meeting last night, and I didn't realize that, like the Department of Agriculture. The Department of Agriculture has its own government. They have their banks, they have all kinds of resources, none of which that we really benefit from in our communities. That we could, by having the right people in the right position, we can have millions of dollars put in our communities that are not coming there now. And that's why this is important. The net result is that we need to generate more jobs in our community, in the smaller communities. And that's one of the objectives of what I've been working on in terms of the Biden campaign. I want to make sure that our areas in that Glaze area get their fair share of federal dollars. And I got Ricky Jackson, is a hometown hero, good friend of mine. Rick is also working on that. He's got some good friends. And for the first time, he's become a lot more political. So I've been really pushing Ricky Jackson. He's going to be helping out also. I know Mayor Babb can appreciate that, very much.
Absolutely. And we certainly appreciate you being a hometown hero also, Attorney Lee. But our goal is, again, that 90% rate. And we're looking for this program, what we're doing in the Glades, as Attorney Lee has mentioned, as a model for other small minority communities to duplicate our efforts. So we're being watched. We're going to write this up. We're going to share this information throughout the entire nation that we can be a benefit to the entire country for our work and our efforts. And we can't do it without the assistance, the financial assistance that it takes to pull something like this off too. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah. Hey, what Attorney Lee's not telling you guys, he's from Pahokee, but he was born in Belgrade. So just so y'all know that, okay?
Okay. Let's take one quick caller because we have a bunch of callers with a lot of questions for the show. Okay, producer, let's talk to one caller. Caller, you have a question for my panel today.
Hello?
Oh, I can't hear you.
Okay, hello. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear.
Okay. My question is, what is the telephone number for finding out getting fines paid for, and how do you verify if you have fines that will keep you from voting? Can you give us that
Hey,
information?
producer, can you repeat what she said? Because she was giving us a telephone number. I couldn't hear her.
She said, what is the phone number that you contact to find out if you have fines that need to be paid and something else? Yeah.
And then who is the person that is helping pay the fines, the telephone number for that?
Who's the person helping to pay the fines and the telephone number for that, Nate?
I don't know, Mayor Bapp, do you guys know the number yet? You could get that and we could give it.
Yeah. Pastor Reese, do you have any of that information?
It depends on the location, Mr. Babb. Like,
okay.
It depends on the location.
Okay.
People would like to know when you put that out there.
Yeah, I was looking the number up. There is an 800 number that they can call. I have it in my phone, so I'm looking it up right now.
Why don't we do this? If you send me the information, we'll post it on our website, and on the show will get broadcast on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and all that. And so we can send out a blast along with about 25,000 emails with the call-in numbers, and we can also target Belgrade, South Bay, and Pahokee, and with that information. So if you provide that, or we'll check it out, and we can send it out probably on Monday. I won't be able to do it today because we had to get a brief out tonight.
Okay, I know they said today was the last day to help get the finances.
Oh, they said today is the deadline?
Yeah, that's what they said on your radio show.
I think Tammy, didn't you mention that?
Yes, today for the Florida Rights Restoration Coalition, October the 3rd is the deadline to apply for assistance through their organization to pay for your fines and fees.
Hey, do you have their phone number?
I don't have a phone number, but I do have their link. I can send that to you so you can share it with the people. But it's only for people who are felons in the state of Florida.
I see. Okay, well, that's Florida is what I didn't hear. And thank you so much.
If you're in Indiana, by the way, if you're in Indiana, you can vote if you're a felon. People in Indiana, you can vote even if you're a felon. We don't have that law that...
Thank you, guys.
You can't vote if you're incarcerated, but if you're a free person, even if you committed a felony, you can still vote. We don't have that law that restricts your right. Those laws are part of a strategy in the South, by and large, whereby people's rights are abrogated. There's a disproportionate number of African Americans that are incarcerated, and so it's a method of voter suppression. And so I don't want people to understand that so you're not misled. That law does not prevent the majority of the people in this country, even if you're convicted of a felony, because we have people in different states, you can still vote. I want to make that clear. We're talking about the state of Florida now in terms of the felon voting rights or denial. I want to make that sure to all our listeners. Now, Mayor Babb, going forward, what else can we do to help out with this important process?
What we're doing, we're going to be meeting Monday, a face-to-face meeting with all the key parties. And what we're going to be looking at is our total budget. I know when I spoke to Tammy, she had indicated that if we could ask for a little additional more, please do so. So once we put that together, financial assistance is going to be a really big key. I think we got a lot in place to pull this off. I'm almost sure we will, even without the additional finance. But if we can get that, that's going to really help us over the top. And I would ask, I don't know if any of our other guests want to have any final say, but I want to say this to the listening audience. Your vote does count, but only if you exercise your right to vote. And our group is here to make sure that our communities participate in this most important election of our lifetime. And not only this election, but all.
I'll be sending another check this week because I'm going to make sure that you have enough money to pull this off. So even if you don't get it, I'll donate another check this week, and also I'll raise some money if necessary if we run short. So I want to make sure this program is successful. This is the most important program that we've done because we got to vote as though our life depended on it. And trust me, with 210,000 dead Americans today, this is real.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I have that number for that we were talking about, My Vote Restoration. This might be the group that Tam is referring to as well, but that number is 877-698-6830. Again, 877-698-6830. And I just want to say this too. People need to understand some of the things that they're trying to do right now before the election is going to be a threat to not only our health care, but those who are on Social Security as well as disability through the federal government. The president is making some proposals that will cut the funding to all of those things. Matter of fact, if he has his way and do away with payroll taxes, it's predicted that the Social Security funds will dry up in 2023, which means that it will no longer exist. So those who are on disability from the federal, getting disability through the federal government or Social Security, you're going to lose your money if this guy stays in office another 4 years, because you don't understand what happens when you do away with certain taxes, and payroll taxes is one of those taxes that if it goes away, the funding for Social Security and other assistance are going to go away as well.
Mayor Babb, 1 minute before we close out. One final comment from Mayor Babb before we close the show. Go ahead.
Again, I really appreciate all the assistance that's being provided to the Glaze community. Not only the Glaze community, the entire South Florida community would certainly benefit from our efforts to change the course of the direction of our country. And our guest participant, Mayor Steve Wilson, Mayor Joe Cowles, Pastor Robert Reese, and Tammy Moore Jackson, and along with Pastor Albert Polk. We certainly appreciate all the effort our Tri-City put together to jointly take on these challenging initiatives. So we just appreciate everyone for every role that they have played in our success.
And to our radio audience, I thank you for your participation. I'm sorry we can take more calls today. Also, to our Facebook user, we're changing our platform primarily to YouTube because Facebook started restricting our dialogue. And once we got past 70,000, I saw that they started restricting our publication. So we're going to switch more so to YouTube. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. We will broadcast this YouTube. I want to get this over 100,000 YouTube person over the next couple weeks. So thank you for participating. Thank you, our special guest today. May God keep you and bless you, and stay safe.
Thank you.
That brothers in Florida are awake.